to We Know Kenobi, episode 1. This is the show where we talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, now streaming on Disney+. I'm your host, Spencer Chandler, here with my co-host, Christian Miller.
Are we going to acknowledge that great intro?
Thank you. I know that I really was debating on asking you before I did it if you were going to like it, but we decided to just go with it.
Yeah, I like it. And I had to throw in a K sound. That's probably also going to be a theme whenever we can. For K. You got to put in the K.
Oh, yeah. So the backup, a little behind the scenes, I had a backup intro. I just want to tell you what it was now because it was going to be really terrible. So, cue back up the intro real quick because we're doing high production quality on this one. Cue back up the intro, and we're gonna go one more time so you can get the full experience on what the bad one is. All right, here we go. These are not the droids you're looking for, but this is the podcast you're looking for because this is We Know Kenobi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work.
But hey, we can save something like that for Star Wars droids.
Keep in the pocket. I got you.
Which interestingly enough, we don't have any news about that.
Even after Celebration.
Yeah. There will be a separate discussion for all the glorious Celebration things and the negative things that will inevitably, I know I will talk about because I like to have mixed feelings on everything.
Yeah.
But here we are talking about the first 2 episodes of Kenobi, and we're going to talk about how we know Kenobi and all his many facets.
And how we don't know some of the other characters.
That sounds so wrong, but right at the same time.
So before we get into it, Christian, have you been doing any Star Wars things or just generally fun things in the 3 weeks it's been since we last recorded?
We did. Well, to brief you on the past 3 weeks, still watching Rebels. I'm at the very end of season 2. After this, I'm going to watch Twilight of the Apprentice. As I was showing you before we recorded, I got a big old prequel storyboarding book, which I'm studying to the nth degree, because I'm putting in the preliminary groundwork to start trying to do art, lots of art, and doing all kinds of, Star Wars is the inspiration for a lot of things, so it definitely has a lot to do with that. In other news, I have a job that's demanding, but in a way that I want it to be demanding. So we're seeing a transition for my personhood. I used to be a jobless little brat who had time to think about Star Wars and therefore thought about Star Wars. Now I'm a mature adult with a job who in his free time still finds time to think about Star Wars.
Yeah. That's kind of where I've been for the past about 6 months. And it's nice. It's a nice place to be in. Because thinking about Star Wars too much can
it's a nice emotional place. It's not a nice financial place.
No. Which is weird because having a job makes it seem like you would be in a good financial place, but in turn it makes you justify the money that you spend on Star Wars.
Gestures to your entire background.
Yes, the $200 Black Series helmet that I bought when I was a senior in high school because I was like, yes, I have income. Yeah. I may have a problem, but I'm better now, I promise. My girlfriend says so. Anyway, I really, it's been a crazy couple weeks for me, and it's actually made me really glad that we backlogged a lot of episodes because we would be so far behind if we hadn't. But the one bit of news that I know Christian and I've already talked about, but is semi-Star Wars related, is that I bought a new car this week. I'm very proud of myself. My first car that I've ever, bought with my own money. Well, the bank's money. But anyway, you get the point. But I think I want to name it something Star Wars related.
Oh, is this an open call?
I think it is. I was thinking, so Christian, you know my car. It's a Beamer. So if anybody wants to like, it's a BMW. So if anybody wants to, comment on one of the Instagram posts for this episode, or email us, give me name suggestions, that would be cool. I want to, you know, everybody, most car guys name their car. I like to consider myself a car guy. So I need to name it something, preferably, a female name, because, machinery, whatever. For some reason, it's always female. Yes.
Which I think I don't think that should be necessary. But alas, that is part of how language is often used.
Indeed.
I got two ideas already.
I
Do
got
you want to go for a classical, female name? I'm going with Princess Nisa, the Ewok princess.
Yes.
It's just the first thing that came into my head. I wanted to name it after like a little furry Star Wars creature. Which I mean, I know the name. I've not seen the Ewok movies, so
yeah, me neither.
And then the next one, it's a bit more. It feels more like a warship, and it's the Pride of Niku.
That's yeah.
It feels like since Niku's one of your favorites, your new favorites.
Or I could just call it Bebo.
Yeah. The colors probably match Bebo more than
the colors match. So at first I was like, all right, I want to name it a blue creature. So I was like, Max. The car's name is Max.
Yeah, Max Rebo. Yeah, that works too.
It's also a gender neutral term, so like there you go. But yeah, Max Rebo.
I think you're either Rebo or Bebo. I mean, they both. It's really just take your pick. Sounds the same.
My sister wants it to be Sally from Cars because the car is almost the same color as Sally, slightly darker, but also Sally's a Porsche, so that feels weird.
That's right. Yeah.
Sally's a Porsche. I also thought about just calling it, because I normally try to keep it one word names. They're like the same. It's like it's shorter than saying the actual car. That's why I think a lot of people name their cars. I thought about Ayla at one point. She's a cool Jedi. She's pretty sick. She's also blue. I was literally just thinking of all the blue characters I could think of, and then I realized that I'm not going to call my car like Thrawn or something. And that would be weird. Yeah.
Well, I wish you luck in crystallizing your car name.
Niku is good, though. I like Niku.
No, the Pride of Niku.
Pride of Niku.
That's the full name.
Yeah.
It's like a commemorative thing.
So there's also like a custom plate on the back. I haven't got my tags yet, right? So I haven't officially done my registration with the DMV or whatever. I still just have the temporary tag on it. So if I can come up with a cool Star Wars name before I get my tags, I'll get a custom license plate with the Star Wars name on it.
More spending on Star Wars.
Yeah, because I have a job and can justify it. Dude, imagine I just name it Bebo, and then I just have Bebo written on the back of a Beamer. It's like, wow, this Beamer is cool, and then you just look at the back, Bebo.
Yeah, I love that.
That'd be great, though. That would be great. Wow, after all this time, I'm thinking about naming my car and putting a Resistance character on my car.
This is such a turnaround, right? I've turned you into such a Resistance fan that it's like an investment now.
Yeah.
I never foresaw that.
Me neither, honestly. But we always foresaw that I would be a fan of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the segues are here. Yes, the segues. All right. So after so much episode being wasted on us randomly talking about things other than Kenobi, let's talk about Kenobi for way too long. So yeah, first two episodes came out. I had high hopes for the show, like through the roof hopes, and I was like, please do not Book of Boba Fett me and just like take my hopes and just like kick them, like I was really hoping, and it didn't. The show lived up to my expectations and more, I would say. The show was there. I'll just go ahead and say it. The whole Leia thing, great. I don't know. I didn't even think of Leia being in this show, but now I'm loving it. Like, I was like, this is like one of the best decisions that was like you could have done. Get Obi-Wan off of Tatooine. Nobody wants to be on Tatooine. Whatever. and have young Leia, who is also just like the coolest. Like she is the coolest. And it also just adds, I feel like it adds a whole nother like layer of Obi-Wan and Leia's, their relationship with each other, and I think it's great. It's really good.
Awesome.
I'll let you talk.
I like that. I like that first reaction. I do want to know how you watched it, as is our tradition.
Yes, I should probably do that first. So I watched it. I got really antsy and just like watched it on my phone because I'm a loser.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah, because I'm a loser. Yeah. I wasn't gonna like go and get up and like I could have like I was like the only one home. It was my day off. I could have easily just like gone into the living room and like watched it on the big 70-inch flat screen. Probably would have been the smart move. But I was like, no, I must watch it now. And so I watched it on my phone.
Okay.
It was still great though.
Phones these days, they're getting up there in quality. So I understand.
Yeah.
Me personally, I wanted so badly to watch it on my TV with my fancy dancy adapter that puts my laptop onto the TV.
Ooh,
that I stole from my brother. Well, I asked for it, but I was
but
unable
he did say
to.
no, but then you took it anyway.
He said yes.
Oh.
He said a cautious yes. You can get it for 3 months, sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
That is actually enhanced Star Wars for me in watching Clone Wars and Rebels, because I had to watch all of Book of Boba Fett on my laptop. But anyway, so when did I watch it? I watched it at like 6 p.m., 5 p.m. after a pretty long day at work.
And
I was really looking forward to having an empty apartment to watch it on my TV, because I have less roommates now that it's the summer.
Yes.
And generally weekends are pretty chill. Boy, was it not chill, dude.
I think I've gotten the precursor to this. So I'm excited to hear this.
It's Memorial Day weekend. It's apparently one of my roommates' birthdays. The night I was able to watch Kenobi, it was the first of 2 nights of loud, intense partying at this apartment.
No.
So I watched it with headphones, both fans, all 3 fans actually, in my room, running so I could block out noise. Headphones on. Yeah, and I took a milkshake break in between, got some cookout, and it was okay. I try not to turn to the dark side, and so occasionally I dwell on these like angry thoughts and don't want to cause conflict, because I think that well, generally I've not experienced enough conflict, so I can't adapt. I cannot adapt very well to like how any sort of criticism that I relay onto someone is going to be received. So I just don't do it at all, basically. But we're not talking about my inner psyche. We're talking about Kenobi. I still found joy in being able to watch it the way I did. And I did rewatch it on my laptop again.
Very nice.
Our apartment was booked, apparently, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, two watches of both episodes.
Yeah. No, I will probably end up going back and rewatching it either tonight or tomorrow before episode 2 comes out on Wednesday. But hey, cool thing about this series, we're switching it up. I'm not doing the synopsis for these episodes.
Yeah.
So Christian decided to tell me about an hour before we recorded, hey, I'm gonna do the synopsis, but he's gonna write it down, which is probably good because they're probably gonna end up being better than mine. But I think that Christian got a little carried away and didn't really understand how to do the synopsis because Christian, how much of the synopsis have you written?
I have described the intro montage and the first scene of the first episode because I had so much fun that I didn't. It's not that I don't know how. It's that I don't know how to do it quickly, and I don't have time for things.
Yes.
But
did you were you like rewatching the scene to synopsize it?
It was mostly from memory, but then like I went back to like check. So yeah, hey, I'm here and I'm doing it. in my own very detailed way.
Yeah,
We
I'm
saw
down.
that.
I'm down for it.
When I did the Kurosawa podcast, it was a change of pace.
It was, and I'm ready for it again.
If I'm either not doing something or I'm taking it absolutely seriously.
Yeah.
Um,
That's how you know you're into it, though.
yes. And yeah, this is my change in investment now that I'm willing to take on your role. So anyway, I would love to start things off with my incomplete synopsis, but nevertheless, it will set up things for our discussion very well. And I promise next week and the following weeks I'll be able to do a full one, and I'll get more practice.
Yeah.
It's shorter, and I won't be working on Wednesdays, so I'll be able to have a full day to devote to Kenobi.
Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen the prequels,
Yeah,
just kidding.
So
That would be so. If you're watching this and you haven't seen the prequels, like why?
Yeah. So without any further ado, it's a planet in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Star Wars turn of phrase. Without any further ado, here is my intro and first scene synopsis for Kenobi.
I gotcha.
The show starts with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, followed by a montage of the key events of the prequels, centering Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship. Obi-Wan, despite the Jedi Council's uncertainty about Anakin's future, devotes himself to train Anakin out of loyalty to Qui-Gon and belief that the boy may be the chosen one. Together, the wise yet powerful Kenobi and passionate Skywalker grow to be truly great Jedi, master and apprentice, even as terrible war wages on. In the margins of this galactic conflict, Anakin finds solace in the fearless and compassionate Senator Padme Amidala, whom he married in secret. Obi-Wan and Anakin's inseparable bond is, in the end, broken as Anakin commits himself to the dark side, unable to let go of his pain, fear, and anger. The brothers-in-arms duel to the death, and Kenobi wins, believing he has killed Anakin on Mustafar. Anakin survives and becomes the menacing monster of machine Darth Vader, reigning over the galaxy under his new master, Emperor Palpatine. Unbeknownst to Vader, Padme Amidala survives long enough to give birth to Luke and Leia, the eventual rebellion heroes. Kenobi sets his sights on the future, hoping the next generation will be able to put an end to the Empire. In the meantime, he seeks to commune with the spirit of his long-gone Jedi Master, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Very nice.
The episode proper starts as a Jedi youngling training lesson is interrupted by Order 66 and the attack on the Jedi Temple. 10 years later, Imperial Inquisitors scour Tatooine in their never-ending search to rid the galaxy of the Jedi. The Grand Inquisitor, a former temple guard himself, lectures citizens on how to find Jedi. They cannot help but reveal themselves through protecting others, and in doing so, they hunt themselves. Reva, the third sister of the Inquisitors, has less patience than her superior and attempts to kill a secret Jedi bar patron. The man escapes, but we learn of Reva's intentions. She wants Kenobi. So,
nice.
Much like the Phantom Menace documentary, this is beginnings.
Yes.
And not much else.
Yes. You actually reminded me of something that I don't know. So we did record a We Can Know Kenobi episode 0, but lots of stuff happened. Unfortunately, it's not going to come out. But I don't know if I talked about it in that recording session or if I just like completely forgot entirely. But I didn't even realize like we're gonna have to be dealing with Obi-Wan finding out that he didn't kill Anakin. I didn't register the fact that like, yeah, Obi-Wan thought he killed Anakin, and like everyone thinks that Anakin's dead. Like even Kenobi thinks Anakin's dead at this point. Like,
yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where like he couldn't do the final blow, but he's also like reasonable in that no one would survive that, you would think.
Yeah.
Also, he still stayed true. He still stayed true to his own feelings that he wanted to beat Anakin in the fight, but he did not want to like destroy him because he just couldn't face that.
So the other thing is, how in the world does Reva know that he's Anakin? Because isn't it like a thing that he just like doesn't talk about the fact that he is Anakin Skywalker? Because he's like, no, Anakin's dead. Like even Darth Vader's like, Anakin's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how does she know that he's Anakin Skywalker? That's what I want to know.
Many, many questions.
There's a lot of questions because like she was like, yeah, Anakin's alive and he's gonna find. It's like, how do you know that? That's like what? Because it's not like you're Vader's inside girl either. Because the Inquisitors treat you like garbage. Like,
yeah. I feel like there's multiple ways of discovering that. I think maybe she could have faced him in Order 66
and
then pieced together just because she's a badass.
Yeah.
Because as we can see in these 2 episodes, she's awesome. And then a less interesting but possibly reasonable thing that I heard is that she might be buddies with Thrawn because Thrawn apparently knows. And
Interesting.
apparently Thrawn served with Anakin, and then with his master deduction skills, because we love us Sherlock Holmes in Star Wars, was able to find out or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because okay, the first theory might work because there's a girl that might look like a young Moses Ingram in the Order 66 scene. She's the first youngling that we see.
Oh yeah.
That's possible. I'm here for the ride though. I don't need to.
No.
It doesn't need to logically. Yeah. It all unfolds, you know.
It's there so that Obi-Wan can know what he did or / didn't do, and that's cool. Down for
she
it.
says that he owes him something. I'm really curious what he owes her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
also
was it Kenobi that owes her? I don't know. She said she wants to get what she's owed. Right?
Something. Yeah, I don't remember though. I will say though, I already told you that so I got emotional at some other point this week. But I actually got emotional twice this week. The second one being while watching the intro for this show. I was like, this is really sad. Like watching, like when you just highlight everything that Anakin and Obi-Wan went through together, and you're like, oh, that's so cute. Aw. And then it's like he killed him. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like when you watch it condensed like that, it really hits you how like hard that would have been for Obi-Wan. It's like, God.
Especially fresh on Clone Wars for me. Really. I think it was just a good. I mean, I was a bit disappointed they didn't include any Clone Wars footage.
I thought they might. I was honestly there. I was like, I'm cool with it. If you were to put animated footage in here, I'd be like, yeah.
And like, Disney's official watch list that they put out on Twitter was like, hey, here's the Clone Wars episodes to watch. It included the Duchess Satine episodes. That made people think, like, what do they know? Like, are we getting a Satine flashback? Or
I was about to say, she's not going to be in this because, she's dead, but
like, bridging that.
Yeah.
A live action Ewan McGregor to, like, get to incorporate that into his performance would be interesting.
Yeah.
Even though it's an animated only story.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting. First of all, I found it interesting that they used a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. That's not been used in any of the other Star Wars shows.
You're right.
It's always started with Lucasfilm and then the CG model lighting intro that they have. So I found that really interesting because a lot of the press has been like, hey, this is a 6-hour movie. This was going to be a movie, but we changed it. We wanted to have more breadth to it.
Yeah.
This model is changing, but the style remains pretty much the same, except, because the prequels are so integral to understanding this, and because people like recaps in their shows, they're doing a montage instead of a crawl. So it's a bit of a bridge between classical Star Wars and what they've been doing with TV shows.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Before we get into like a serious discussion, I mean, we already are in a serious discussion, but I took notes on this episode. I took 2 notes. And they are new phrases that I will be trying to incorporate into my daily language. 1 It's like raising a glorag. These are just like everyday things that they're saying. That's like, to them, this makes sense, but to us, it's a cool new phrase. All right, it's like raising a glorag. That's a good one. My favorite one though was spoken by Leia, and it's I'd rather be digested by a Jacko beast, which was great.
Every time something like that is said, it's just like, okay, I'll take your word for it. But for
Yeah,
all I know, you could be getting the anatomy of a Jacobi's wrong. Uh, but yeah,
I've decided that I was going to um I've decided that I was going to take a note every single time one of these analogies is said. Like a beast analogy is said, and we're gonna, at the beginning of all the episodes, we're gonna do a this week's analogies. And so these are the only two that were in the first two episodes. And they're both in like the first 10 minutes of the first one. And so I was like, man, we're gonna get so many cool like creature analogies in this show. And then there was not another one. I was kind of disappointed. But I'd rather be digested by a Jacko beast is probably one of my favorites. Um, I was wondering if a Jacko beast is like from Jakku.
possibly.
Um,
Have you looked it up? Is there a Wikipedia for it?
yes. So there is a Wikipedia for it. I just looked it up. So a Jacko beast were force-sensitive Arctic herd animals found in the tundra and icy planets of the Outer Rim. So force-sensitive beasts.
Beasts, like sentient beasts, or just
No, they were introduced by colonists sought herd animals capable of defending themselves. It looks like they are about the size of a bantha. That's what they say. They look like a tiger. Like they're just like a large saber-toothed tiger. That's what they look
okay.
like.
Those I'm pretty sure those are the ones on the moon of Ordo Plutonia, I think.
Possibly. Let me see
Um,
if they've shown up in any.
or
Uh,
Pantora, the moon of Pantora in the Clone Wars. Remember that arc?
I do, but they're not them. Those are different. Those look more like. Those are skinnier. These are like huge.
All right. Does it say legends? Because
Um.
it could be one of those like canonization of like a thing
Oh wait. Let
disappeared.
me. That was the legends. Sorry, that was the legends definition. Let me read you the canon definition of a Jacko beast. They're actually brown furred species of animals that inhabited the valleys between mountains on snow covered Outer Rim territory, planets Gigor. In 9 BC, when Princess Leia Organa of Alderaan was told by her mother to apologize to her cousin. Oh, this is from.
That's what I mean. Like this show probably introduced that to canon.
Yes. It says appearances. There is a hide of one in the Rise of Skywalker.
In
There's
that
like
costume, or
it says fur only. I don't know what that means. It says appearances, Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 1, mentioned only. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, fur only. Whatever that means.
we can know Jacko Beast.
There was probably like one hanging on a wall somewhere in where I don't even know where one would be in Rise of Skywalker. But anyway, in Legends, they look cool as heck and they are force sensitive, which is cool, but apparently not in not in canon. But anyway, those are your cool analogies for this week that I thought were really good. But yeah, speaking of Leia, I already said this. Young Leia is really cool.
Yes, I was hesitant. I was very off put at first when I see, oh, we're in Alderaan. This is not what I expected at all.
Yeah.
For better or worse, I figured this show was going to dwell primarily in the depression of Kenobi and the dark sands of Tatooine.
Yes.
Go to a few city planets and like a Star Destroyer. That was my idea of the environments, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be shocked with this paradise, even though the Empire is in control, Alderaan is still a paradise.
Yeah.
And then realizing, oh, they're doing Leia. Why? I'm eager to know why. Not in a cynical like not that I don't want to see child Leia, more in a sense of like the track record of cameos recently was skewed negative for me.
Yeah.
So like Spencer, it's hard to talk when you're like not making eye contact.
I'm sorry. I'm looking up stuff about actors that were also in this. I apologize
Sorry.
greatly.
You distracted me. So I don't know. It's not that I wanted Kenobi to be dark and gritty necessarily.
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna be lighthearted in some ways, but it was a secret hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it was like
as when I was finally won over for good in terms of like I like the Leia scenes. I just didn't know if they fit until there was that point where she gets captured and then cut immediately to a signal, Kenobi getting this signal from Bail Organa, and then I was just like, "This is why."
Yeah.
She is why he leaves. It all makes sense. He must save her because that's why she knows him in the first place. That she has a personal connection. It makes sense. Leia has seen Star Wars before Luke ever gets part of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that, it's addressing the thing that people have thought for a really long time, and it's like, why does Obi-Wan think that Luke is the only hope for the galaxy? And it's like, why is he not investing in Leia? Why does he only care about Luke? And then literally Bail is like, she's just as important as he is, and it's like, yes, Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, so much justice for Bail and for Leia in this episode. Seeing Bail be such an endearing presence, really getting that legitimate it's a in the flesh version of that passage from Bloodline.
Also, can we just talk about how like Bail Organa is like the coolest dad?
Yes, I know. I'm talking. There's a part as soon as I bring up books, you're like, "Can I interrupt you, sir?"
I didn't even know you were bringing up books.
And Bloodline, the book where Leia,
yes,
the secret gets out that Vader is her father and she's a senator and she's trying to start the resistance. She thinks to herself, the only image of a father in her mind was only Bail. Vader was this like unknowable evil presence that only caused her pain.
Yeah.
And Luke had this redemption moment and father-son bonding, but that's not her story. Bail was her father. There's even a statue of Bail in the capital of the New Republic. So, I'm just so glad we still have Jimmy Smits, and I'm glad that he's willing to come back make it an unavoidable thing that Bail is very important for forming who Leia is. Because I feel like, especially people who like maybe dismiss the prequels, they don't really understand how important Bail was. Because Lucas was intentionally being like, I want to show, because like Leia, it's like she was always Leia Organa. So who does she come from? What makes that identity? And also part of that is Padme. Which we'll say that for episode 2 because that's when she is brought up. But continue to gush about Bail.
Bail's what a good dad. What a good dad that Bail. I just love all the scenes between him and Leia, or even like him, Leia, and Bria, because she'll be saying something like, she'll be like, Leia, don't do that, and then she'll look at Bail and he's just like, I don't know, like, maybe you should listen to your mom.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Also, just the part where he's
the
like,
actress McKinney. Her last name is McKinney, I think. She has so many good Carrie Fisher lines.
The actor who plays Leia, Vivian Blair.
Oh, I thought it was McKinney. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm on IMDb.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the obvious questions come up about like, oh, it's a new actor's cast. It's like, oh, that's the contractor that you're the Leia for the next 30 years or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Okay.
These moments are just important for what they are.
She's such a
Uh,
good Leia too. It's
can
like,
we please take a moment to digest what we've been given before talking about the future decades of Star Wars
oh yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
Which I could have just not said any of that, and it would have been just as right. Anyway, I like Lola, the little
Mm-hmm.
smartphone droid that she has.
Yep.
Um, it's like when you know those like ladybug phones that parents used to give kids to like, get
Yes.
them to train to have a cell phone.
You
Like it
just
was
like
like
unlocked a weird nostalgia memory for me.
you only have you only have 911, probably
Yeah.
like CPS or something like that, and like your parents' phone number. That's what it feels like as a droid.
Surprising they give you CPS on those things.
I'm making that up. I don't know
I
if
know,
that's
I'm
true.
just saying. Like imagine, hey, here's your trainer cell phone. Also, the only number you have is Child Protective Services, just in case.
I mean, is that not necessary?
No, it probably in some cases probably. Mm. But yeah, no, I love how good, and like this is also on the writers, and this is like it almost feels like they were doing this instead of Book of Boba Fett. Like, because the writing in the show is fantastic. Her lines, Leia's lines are just like, oh yeah, like that. That's just like it's perfect. It's a Carrie Fisher line, 8-year-old style. You know, it's like I don't know. The writing in this show is just so far been fantastic.
You know how good you have to make an episode of TV about Kenobi to get us to veer off into a 10-minute segment about Leia?
An 8-year-old.
Well, not to put anything down on Leia, but like we were here expecting to talk about Kenobi for 2 hours,
Uh huh.
and we still haven't talked about Kenobi
No.
other than the prequels montage.
Yeah.
Um, but also, it a lot of this Kenobi stuff is good in this first episode, but it's more or less what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
The new stuff really came in episode 2. But yeah, let's talk about Kenobi. He's at a meat plant. He works at a meat plant.
Yeah.
He very, very nonchalantly takes scraps and feeds them to his EOP.
Yes.
That's about as much as he can do in terms of, you know, his own Jedi business sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I noticed that the show does to just like, and a lot of shows, a lot of movies do it, and a lot of shows do it to show just like monotony, and it's such an easy thing. Just show somebody doing the same thing every like over and over again, and they're showing, and it's like, wow, his life kind of sucks. Like this dude has been in. He lived on Coruscant since he was 6 months old. That's the canon, whatever time period, the super nerd age, whatever. Um, but he doesn't know anything. Like until 10 years ago, he didn't know anything other than Coruscant. Like living wise, like I mean, like living places, like
He's
like
seen the galaxy.
I know, but what I'm saying is like he grew up on Coruscant. He didn't really have to worry about where his next meal is. He was like, yeah, I'm a Jedi. I get my meals. We're good. I'm living good. Even though like I fight in wars, I'm still living pretty good. And now it's just like, yeah, he has nothing. Like, and it's such a stark difference from where he was
And he's
before this.
powerless.
Yeah.
He doesn't stand up to the worker who said that someone couldn't get a fair wage, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like sort of helpless look of like, I wish I could intervene, but I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels it's what we expected, but it's like it feels so real. It feels so
Mm-hmm.
um quintessentially Obi-Wan for this time period. And it also like it's an important thing to discuss when like some people view the Jedi as like this emotionless, rules-based society, and I think that's just fundamentally untrue. Obi-Wan is repeatedly shown as like this emotional, caring person who
Yeah.
always wants to balance himself out with the right practices so that he does not hurt himself or hurt other people. And that means, in this case, he has to stay hidden, but it's also very painful, and we feel that with him. And it's an interesting thing to see, particularly with him, to see him powerless. We saw him powerless in the Clone Wars a lot of times. You know how many times he gets like tortured?
Yeah.
But this time without the backing of like the Republic and the Jedi, without his status, without being able, like, he's seen everything. So yeah, there's a lot of different times this episode where he has to like lie, and it's so painful to see that.
It's also
what do you think? What do you think of Tika? I want to talk about Tika, the Jawa.
Oh, it's so weird. It's funny. It almost makes me like, is she just like a normal, like, everyday thing that just comes? She just comes around like, hey, you want anything? And he's like,
I think she rides like a very miniature bike version of the Sandcrawler, and that's my headcanon.
Yeah,
like it's a single rider Sandcrawler.
Yeah, I also love that she regularly steals Obi-Wan's parts that make his house work and then sells them back to him.
Yeah.
But he's too nice. But he's too nice to do anything, and so he pays her anyway.
No, I think he's took back the processing board.
Oh, it seems because he paid her something.
He might have paid her like the 75 for the toy, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, that's right.
But Tika says, "I have a tribe to feed," which lines up with the workers saying, like, "I have a family to feed." So it's like Obi-Wan's are like in touch with all these people in need rather than just his peers in the army and the Republic. But also, remember in Solo when Han interprets what Chewbacca's saying, and he's like, "I don't know if he said tribe or family," and then Dryden's like, "What's the difference?" I don't know. It's a little like terminology. I like how it's just like interchangeable. All these different people have these different situations, and it's all about who you're connecting with.
Also,
it's so depressing that Obi-Wan doesn't get to keep those connections. Other than Luke, it's just like he still lives. Yeah, but yeah, go on.
The toy is the toy that we see Luke with, and cool little Easter egg there. That's the toy that Luke is playing with in Episode 4.
Yeah, and it's especially there's that's his own heroism that he wants to do. He wants to be Uncle Ben. He wants to inspire Luke because he knows Luke is one of the keys to ending the Empire. And it's amazing. Like previously, I never thought. I guess I did think like when Luke's playing with the toy Starfighter, it's like part of his childish sort of hope of being out there. But I didn't really think of it as this like profound image of that in action, sort of like there's the symbol of looking at the sunset, which everyone knows, but there's also the I want to be a hero and fly and shoot stuff, which is it's so important for his journey, but it's also like he has to learn other things too. Yoda says Jedi or fighting, excitement, war. I'm paraphrasing. A Jedi craves not these things. But Obi-Wan still needs to be like, hey, there's other stuff out there. I want to show you this.
Yeah.
But I can't because Owen is such a pain in the Jacobies. He is Owen. Let's talk about Owen. Man, he is so hurtful, but so right in his own way.
But also, so this is the episode where he burns the absolute crap out of, pun intended, out of Obi-Wan. He's just like, wow, like you trained his father? Anakin's dead. And it's when he said that is when it hit me, oh yeah, you're like Anakin's stepbrother. Like, I forgot about that. because I always forget, the whole Owen, like his dad was Shmi, whatever, yeah, was Shmi's husband, but it's like, yeah, like that was his brother that you killed, so he probably doesn't like you very much, or just
I don't think he knows the full extent of it. I don't think Obi-Wan told him, I killed your stepbrother.
no, probably not. But in the fact that where it's like you're the one that trained him and he died.
I think the gist is that Obi-Wan comes in on an EOP with a baby in his arms, and he's like, long story short,
This is your nephew, bro.
long story short, hi, I'm the master of the Jedi you met a few years back. And yeah, things didn't turn out well. Remember, his mom died. Well, other people have died too, and he's killed a bunch of people, and he's gone now, I think.
Probably.
But it didn't end well. He didn't end a good guy. But I want you to raise his son right. And for an Owen who's never left Tatooine, never plans to, can't really, because of his conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And being shaped by this, Owen is shaped by his experience in that, like, I think it forms his pessimism because Klieg goes to save Shmi, but people are killed by the Tuskens. And there was this like, Klieg has this too of just like, we can't, there's no way we can save Shmi. We're just not powerful enough. We're ordinary people. This is bigger than us.
Mm-hmm.
And it forms this desire to like protect your own people. Acknowledge that the portrayal of Tuskens is pretty racist. But in terms of Owen's character, so Owen he comes into the Skywalker lineage through the marriage of Klieg and Shmi.
Mm-hmm.
And then he forms this new connection with Shmi's son. And ultimately that is a failure. That is like this like formative memory, I would assume, for him. And that like these people who try to be heroes and take it into their own hands still can't save people. Doesn't matter how powerful you are. You still can't. It's still a danger if you go out there. So you must stay home and do your best to protect anyone who encroaches on your land, but don't go out there because it's too dangerous. So that is Owen, and it's a pessimism formed by very negative experiences that ultimately he's not the kind of character that needs to grow beyond that. It's Luke that we're focusing on.
And yet he still lies for Kenobi.
Yes.
At the expense of his family, possibly. Or himself.
Yes. And then he says, I didn't do it for you.
And then he's like, I did it. I was like, who else would you do it for? Because you were literally putting your family in danger by not saying anything. Like,
but he saved Obi-Wan. But he saved Obi-Wan to save his family.
That makes sense.
He wasn't protecting Obi-Wan for Obi's sake.
Yeah. That makes sense. It was, honestly, this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but it was heartbreaking to see that he like buried the lightsabers and had no intention of ever going back to them. I was like, oh,
but he still had that Force connection, knew exactly where they were.
Oh yeah, that was sick. I was like, that's great, but it's also just so sad to realize that he never planned on going and getting those back.
It's a connection. Here's a brief toss aside. We will not go back to it. It does connect to Rey burying the Skywalker lightsabers.
Yeah.
And I've never liked that part of that ending.
No.
But the fact that now we have this depressed Obi-Wan image of like being so intertwined with the ending of the Skywalker saga, it makes me double down on like, yeah, things still didn't end as the happiest version
of
the story. But hey, you you learn something new every day about Star Wars. You also find a new reason not to like Tross.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's not the focus.
Yes.
Your focus determines your reality.
We also get introduced to the Grand Inquisitor in this episode, which is
I still don't like the design.
I thought we weren't Christian, we weren't going to talk about this.
It made me forget that the original Inquisitor has lens caps on his ears.
Oh yeah.
Because it looks so off-putting in live action that I forgot the animated one had that. I still don't know if I'm fully remembering, but I saw them in the last episode I saw the Inquisitor in. But anyway, I'll be honest, I briefly just want to touch on the performance feels weird aside from the look.
I agree.
It doesn't. I don't know. I don't want to harp on precision in terms of adapting animated to live action stuff, but it just doesn't. I think though it's just weird. It's weird that like he's such an important Inquisitor character, but ultimately he is serving Reva's story, and I think it's decent enough to show these Inquisitors who are just the antagonists for Reva. Yeah. And they're these overbearing bosses, and we're not going to get much beyond that, I don't think. Unless Grand Inquisitor goes on a spree trying to get revenge on Reva.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring that up because, might as well move into episode 2. Is this the Grand Inquisitor? Because maybe he's just the same race.
I think Thundercat patches up his belly.
That would be sick. Thundercat cameo? Heck yeah.
I don't mean that, but it's gonna be an off-screen healing. It's not gonna be a big deal.
No, he should kill him. I'm just kidding.
But the way the performance is weird. But on paper, using the Inquisitors as antagonists for Reva is interesting because I truly do feel like Reva is like the third protagonist of this show. I think that she's clearly marked as this like determined Sith, but she's not consumed in the way that the other Inquisitors are. She doesn't have yellow eyes. And she's obsessed with Kenobi for personal reasons. And I don't know, it's just like the other Inquisitors underestimate her, and I feel like I just instantly side with her because of how they write her off.
Yeah.
And it makes me so mad seeing them treat her the way they do. Because clearly she's like more efficient. Why is the Grand Inquisitor lecturing a bar patron or the bartender about Jedi? She's just like, no, I know what we need to do. And she's clearly just doing her job better.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like that Jedi speech. That Jedi speech is all-timer quote.
Yeah. I also straight up thought they hung someone in Star Wars. And I was like, are they going to show someone just like being hung in Star Wars?
We saw it in the last episode of Book of Boba Fett.
Being actually hung?
Yeah, the Pike leader.
Oh, that's right.
So I was surprised that they like PG'd the.
They did PG the hanging in this one. It's also like, okay, so here's my really terrible prediction of what happened. So the public ugly Sonic this. When the trailer came out, everyone was like, ew, the Grand Inquisitor looks bad. So they were like, cool. So we're gonna kill him and then write it as a separate character for the rest of the show and fix it.
I don't think there's.
No, I'm just kidding. That would never happen. But
I think there's a very small amount of fixing being done. The most fixing I can think of is maybe the Mando episode of Book of Boba Fett, but even that, I feel like there's not much evidence for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Leia gets captured. There's not a lot of deep stuff we can talk about there. It is worth noting that the lead pirate is played by Flea from
Flea
Red Hot Chili
from the Red
Peppers.
Hot Chili Peppers.
He has such a weird face and voice that is such a good
He's a
it's
good
like a
pirate.
Star Wars
Oh
good
yeah.
Star Wars scoundrel look
Yeah.
to him. And then Benny Safdie. Benny Safdie plays Nari.
Mm-hmm.
Benny Safdie, the co-director of Uncut Gems.
I didn't know that. I've never seen Uncut Gems.
And he also was in Licorice Pizza as a city council candidate.
Interesting.
He's done other things, but those are things I know most from.
Mm-hmm.
Plays a good millennial Jedi who
Yeah.
is really down on his luck. Man, he just looks so pitiful because it's like, I don't know. I just look at him. I was like, who are you in the context of this grand story? You look like the most average looking Jedi.
Yeah.
But still, he found Obi-Wan, and he like stalks Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
And Obi-Wan just breaks all of his hopes and dreams.
Yeah, that was
He's like, no, we lost.
such a good scene.
Mm.
I do like the camera work of showing that he's being watched. Those are some really cool shots.
Yeah.
Something we don't often see. I think there's some stuff in A New Hope where we see some of that like of Tusken Raiders looking at R2-D2 and the camera like looks like a documentary. I have this like running unofficial tally. I don't have it written down, but I do every time there's a POV shot in Star Wars, I mentally log it.
Oh, I should. So before we really move on to episode,
but only like maybe one of those shots was POV of Nari. The other one were just like shaky shots from other angles.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Before we like really move on to episode 2, the last really cool thing that I noted is while Obi-Wan never remembers owning a droid, he does keep one as a security device for his house.
No, that's a sensor. I don't think it's connected to an astromech.
I know, but it's the sensor from an astromech that is being used as like a sensor. It's cool.
But that's like using a comm link.
I know. I think it's cool. I was like, because it's literally the same kind of sensor that's in an R2 unit.
That's true. Yeah, it is a very good design, little detail.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, R2 has a sensor. Why don't we just put that in the sand?
Yeah.
And that's your security system.
Yep. Anyway, that's all. We can move on to episode 2, which is the big action heavy. We get some good Leia Obi-Wan-ness in this episode, and I hate skipping all the way to later on into the episode, but this is literally the first thing I think of is Obi-Wan really hasn't used the Force in like 10 years, or like really tapped into it probably, because it's like difficult for him to lift a child.
Something we forgot to talk about is the Qui-Gon stuff in episode 1. It connects to what you're talking about, though. He's so out of touch with the Force that he can't commune with Qui-Gon. It's unclear if he hasn't at all or if he just hasn't in a while.
Yeah.
Not sure. But I am confident they're going to explore that because it was in the opening montage. The opening montage ends with you get to talk to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
But yeah, he actually tries to talk to him in both episodes. Also, his dream. It goes through all the violence and betrayal, but then it ends with Anakin flying the Naboo starfighter.
Yeah.
It ends with the tri-spinning. Like, I feel like it was a shocking but interesting choice that they're like, that's him visualizing they're still good in him. Remember Anakin, the good boy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he struggles with saving Leia, just physically the toll it takes on him, I guess. He almost let that kid die, and it's amazing how many little actions can impact the whole galaxy. Imagine if he didn't.
I know, right? Also, like, he refuses to take out his lightsaber. And it's like, listen, the reason they're shooting at you is because they know you're a Jedi. It's
because you're a bad shot.
I was gonna say, and it's like, well, it's because it's uncivilized, my guy. So
Well, he was a good shot in the box arc when he was Reiko Hardin, but he was more in tune with the Force, obviously.
Yeah.
He was fighting all the time, so he's very up to date with combat strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just sort of out of it. He's been sleeping till noon, you know.
I love semi old man, middle aged like Obi-Wan. It's a good. I think it's funny because it's like, you know how I mentioned that, or I said that I think that this Obi-Wan really has to bridge the gap between prequels, flipping, doing crazy stuff, Obi-Wan, and I'm gonna stand here and block with my lightsaber, Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan, and I think it's doing it perfectly. Like, it's showing that he used to be this. It's like very much hinting. Like, I used to be able to do this with ease. I used to, like, this wasn't a problem for me. And now I just got punched like 3 times really nice by a pirate.
Definitely.
And it's like 10 years ago, if a pirate would have tried to touch Kenobi, he would have been like, are you literally insane? Like, and now it's like, yeah, he got hit to the ground by a pirate, like, for a second.
Well, he's had some tough fistfights in the Clone Wars too, though.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, against other Force users.
no, against a Zygerian.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, my desk is like falling apart.
Got it.
So I like his costume change because like it's the inevitable like, oh, character reappears, they get a new look. But it's also like we've only ever seen him in Jedi robes. And there's also the Tatooine criticism of everyone on Tatooine looks like they're Jedi because the Jedi robes look like farmers' clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But he's wearing this like blue, very like, you know, blue connects to like sorrow and grays. They're just very unassuming. He's sad and he's wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining him ending the show with the more classical Jedi robes that he has in A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And really it makes the arc come to full circle where we know he's the guy that'll draw his lightsaber at the cantina when he needs to.
Yeah.
So
Man. This show,
I'm liking these gaps filled.
I know, and I know that you and I are both kind of people who are like, we don't need the gaps to be filled in Star Wars. We've had enough. But this is the good way to do it. Like, if you're gonna do it, this is the way to do it. It's not just like show what we already know they can do, but in a time period that we haven't seen before. It's like actually take a character who like has a very different style in different places and then show them evolving in that way. Like, I want to see how they got where they were, not just like, well, this is what they did during this time, this is what they did during this time. It's like, no, show us how we got from here to here. Like, that's what makes that's what makes it interesting when you're trying to bridge a gap. That's why it's interesting. If you don't do that,
it's also everything that comes out. It's just always good to ask why they're doing what they're doing, because sometimes it is worth giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, there's a view you can have of Star Wars of like, I don't like the slate, right? I don't like their plan or whatever. These aren't the areas I want to focus on. But you can let that die down and just sit with what you've got, because inevitably things get reborn, things have their time to get digested when people really sit with the themes. Same thing with the prequels. Same thing with hopefully the sequels. And same thing with Book of Boba Fett. I'm gonna rewatch it at some point.
Yeah. When like the analogy that I just came up with in my head is they call it bridging the gap for a reason. If you're gonna try to tie two things together with something in the middle, it needs to be a bridge. It doesn't need to be stepping stones, because then it's just easier to fall and mess it all up. You know, like, don't make it stepping stones, make it a bridge. Like, I don't know. It makes sense. I feel like it's more sturdy and it's easier to make it better in that way.
What would you say is an example of a Star Wars movie or show trying to be a stepping stone?
or book.
I don't know. I don't think. I think that a step.
Or episode. I don't know.
Yeah, I think saying that something is a stepping stone can be very like it has to be like pretty bad for it to just because it's basically just going, hey, there's this thing and then there's this thing. Also, like there's this dude in the middle. Like I think the best, honestly, the best example that we have so far is probably just the Mando episodes of Boba Fett. Not because they're bad, but because it does. Like the only thing they're doing is, hey, you already know that Mando has done this. He's gonna do this, but hey, guess what he did during this part right here? And it doesn't really like. There's no super emotional arc for Mando other than getting Baby Yoda back, but that's done as part of the actual Boba Fett show.
I see what you're saying, but I also disagree. I think there is.
I don't think there's a great example of one in Star Wars.
I think Mando has his arc in that show. I just think it's not necessary to be in that show.
Yeah.
It distracts from Boba's story. Contrast that with how Leia is portrayed in this show. And it's like, once you get past the surprise of, oh, this show has Leia, you're like, oh, not only does it have Leia, she is the heart of this show.
Yeah.
She is, we saw that shot of Anakin and we're like, oh, yeah, Kenobi's trying to protect the future, whatever. But this is like, no, the story is with Leia.
Mm-hmm.
She is that hope that he needs to preserve. And she's also a catalyst for him thinking about his past again, because she reminds him of Padme. Bro, let's talk about Padme.
Yeah, he's like, wow, you remind me of my friend, because she was a great leader and she like knew always what she wanted. And it's like, and he's talking about her mom, and he just doesn't say it. Like, she knows she's adopted, so it's not like he's trying to do that, but he's like, it's so sad because it's like, dude, you're talking about her mom and you're not even telling her that you're talking about her mom.
Classic Obi-Wan. It's true from a certain point of view.
I know, but I'm like, dude, tell her that she's like her mom. That would be
ladies
epic.
And gentlemen, may I introduce to you the collection of half-truths and hyperboles that is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. But it's like, how great of a moment could that be? Like, it's already a great moment. But imagine him just being like, yeah, you remind me so much of your mother. We were friends, and you and your mom are very much alike. And there's like seeing, like, because Leia kind of like shrugs it off, the comment as a whole. She's like, oh, that's cool. Okay, let's go like get off this.
Sorry
planet.
She died. Anyway.
Sorry she died. But imagine like her reaction if she was told that she was like her mom. Because her whole thing is that she feels like she's not an Organa. And that she feels like she's not like her parents. So if someone were to tell her, like, yeah, you are just like your mom, she'd be like she would just light up. I would hope. And
I don't think she would.
Maybe, but I just think it would be.
There would be so many questions attached to that would lead you to having to tell her the tragedy. And I feel like she would be doomed in a certain way of like, yes, all your insecurities about being an Organa are valid. And there's this dark thing
that makes sense.
That happened, and you're just this lost soul. I think it's good that she grows up thinking that she's an Organa, because that is stable. And she grows to be her own person, and then is able to cope with whatever tragic thing that comes in that comes up through Luke's journey.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's just, I don't know. I think because whenever I heard about people saying like we need a younger Leia or whatever, it was always when people were like, cast Millie Bobby Brown or this lookalike sort of thing. But I like that it's an unknown.
Yeah.
And I like that it's like very. First off, it builds on the protect children trope, the father daughter, father son sort of thing that Star Wars has been doing a lot lately.
Yeah. I'm here for it too.
There's obviously the void of Star Wars mothers. Mothers are not given the same space to operate within Star Wars, and I think part of that is
part of me is frustrated with the way Rhea is portrayed. I
Mhm.
get that one parent tends to take on one role, the other takes on another, but like I want to really see what Rhea sees because mother's been so absent from us, I think. Which is why I like Hera so much because like she's not like, oh, here's a mother character, but also being a mother is so integral to who she is,
Mhm.
at least later in life. And she's so fully rounded. I got on a tangent. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, but it's something that I care about.
We're talking about how good characters are, and that's perfectly fine because that's what this podcast is about. Yeah. I guess we can't really. I guess we can't really talk about this episode without talking about our fake Jedi man himself, Kumail Nanjiani.
I really liked.
At first,
his
I was like, "This is
character.
atrocious." Like, I was like, "Dang it, we could have had Kumail playing an actual Jedi." But then by the end of it, I was like, "No, this is who he needs to play. This was a character written for him, and you can tell."
Yeah. Which did I say that in our episode 0 that never came out? Did I say that like they wrote it for him?
I think that you mentioned no, I don't think you did because I think we were both speculating on if he was gonna actually just like be a Jedi or if he just happened to be wearing robes, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, and I think I said that he will be funny, and boy was I right.
Yeah, you were very
And
right, and
I'll
love
be
it.
honest. I would be honest. I was duped. I thought it was because I was initially thinking of like what is his moral standing? So like when he does the shade open and close, and he's talking up his Jedi game, I thought he was just a really bad Jedi who lost his way. But then when Obi-Wan's like, "You're a scam artist," I was like, "Oh, I'm dumb." I've realized now that it's all an elaborate trick because I noticed on the second watch the sound effects were there from the beginning. Sound effects clue you in immediately. If you're really paying attention, they don't use the force effects for whenever something is moved.
Yeah,
They use the mechanical effects for the magnets and the mechanical effects for the shades closing. It was there from the beginning. I was only looking at, oh yeah, he weighs in, yeah, he's Jedi. But
you can also tell based on like the way he does his hand movements because when he does them, he goes. It's not like whenever a Jedi in the past have done their and you only get this if you're watching the actual YouTube video or the Spotify video, but it's always like a slow like you're moving your hand at the same speed as the thing you're moving.
I've got a stand-up routine for you. Jedi wave their hands to move objects like this, but Haja does it like this.
Yeah.
It
was a John Mulaney bit inside of a Star Wars bit.
No, it's like a 90s bad comic.
Yeah.
Also, he was like, "I'm in your mind right now." That was like a very easily.
That was so stupid.
He is. This is the best.
Or the part where when he's done, he's like like panting.
And then also like offering his services for money. He just stood downstairs with these puppy dog guys of like, "You're gonna pay me, right?"
Yeah.
It was just a weird middle ground. It's like, oh, he's saving people, but he's adopting this character, this Jedi persona.
Yeah.
Because that's how resonant the Jedi are. There's still that hope. There's still that image of the myth of the Jedi. And because of the circumstances, he has to fake it and deceive and still do good things, but also have to kind of smudge the actual Jedi truths of like selflessness.
Well, and let's not forget his guy on the other side who has to pretend like he's being mind controlled.
Yeah.
I will let them through. And like okay. Like I can't believe we didn't get to see that guy. Like it's like there's a guy on the other end who is just like pretending to be mind controlled through a comm link. Which have Jedi done that before? Have we ever seen them like mind control through a comm?
No, it's always someone guarding something.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I love his character. He's so funny, and you can tell it was written for him. It's like, yeah, this is like, and at first I was like, I maybe want him to be playing a character that's a little bit different than like all the movies he's been in recently, where he's very much played like the same type of character. But I was like, no, like I can't imagine him playing a serious role. Like it wouldn't come across as serious just because of his reputation.
I think the best part though is that he changes.
Yes. Yeah.
The inspiration of, like, he always has this inspiration of Jedi, but his encounter with Kenobi inspires him
Mm-hmm.
to be a better version of himself.
Yes.
And so he's more than just a one-note comic sidekick. He's just another example of someone touched by Obi-Wan's actions.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Does he die? I can't remember.
He does not. So another good example of why Reva's not totally bad. She didn't kill a stranger that she could have easily killed him.
She has yet to really kill anybody other than the Grand Inquisitor. Well, who's probably not even dead.
Yeah. And she roasted Nari's shoulder for a bit.
Yeah, but still, like, she hasn't really killed anybody yet.
Well, I mean, we don't know who killed Nari.
That's true.
I don't really need to know. But yeah, Haja is like, I don't know. I hope he's the first of many steps for Kenobi to show the value of stepping up and showing he's interacting with everyday people, first off. Or second off. I can't believe I introduced a point and then went to my next point and said first off. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to the collection of transitional phrases and generalese known as Christian Miller. So generally speaking, Kenobi he's working his way through the galaxy, and he's doing these small acts of kindness to people in addition to the big galaxy sweeping thing of saving Leia. I just love the hook of this show. I'm hooked.
Yeah, me too. I literally told you before we started recording, I was like, can we please just have episode 3 already? Please. Just like, I want it. I want to watch it now. Give it to me. Like, I don't know. I think Mandalorian season 1 was the last time that I was like this hooked on a Star Wars TV show. And I was like, give it to me now. It was like Mando season 1. We watched the series premiere, and I was like, more, please. And I'm that way right now. I'm like, this is fantastic, and I love where the show is going. And I'm not even mad that it got delayed anymore, because it got delayed, and I'm like, I'm mad if a show gets delayed and then doesn't like perform. Like you had.
Is this about Stranger Things?
No, I haven't seen Stranger Things yet.
Oh, I'm just wondering.
No,
I haven't seen it either.
I'm just like, there are plenty of other shows that like will get delayed and then they still won't do well. They're still not like super great. Whereas this show is like still fantastic. And I love that they took the time to make sure that the show was going to be good, and they didn't try to like rush through it. Because I feel like Kenobi needs that extra bit of that touch. Like if you screw up Kenobi, like you just messed up. It's different than if you were to have messed up Kenobi. It's different than messing up any other Star Wars show.
Yeah.
Kenobi is a fan favorite character. He's a beloved character, and
in terms of like the saga, it's a midquel.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's in between 3 and 4, and it's really meant to bridge the gap. It's meant to be this like spiritual cousin, I guess, of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
But speaking of production, let's talk about visual effects, sound design, anything that like jumps out at you in terms of the filmmaking.
One thing.
This is the obligatory volume name drop section where we say the volume like 40 times.
Yes. So one of my favorite things is there were a lot of cool aliens. Like,
I'll send you the video. Uh, the species of Therm Scissor Punch from Solo was just sort of like standing in the background. He was like standing in the background of the standoff with
yeah.
Reva and Owen on Tatooine. He's
Mm-hmm.
the Razor Bill
Yes.
aliens. He's just like, and it's so funny.
Did you notice the giant slug-looking things that were just like they were on the planet where Leia was taken, and there's the two slugs, and they're basically just going like, they look like cones, and they're like slugs, and they're so weird looking, and they're right in the foreground. I cannot believe you missed them.
In the party scene.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's on that planet. I cannot believe you missed them. They're very prevalent, and they're weird looking. They're just big cones. But they're like brown. It's so weird.
Wow. Oh, we forgot to mention that standoff between Leia and her cousin. That was hilarious.
That was hilarious. That was good. That's also when I'd rather be digested by a Jacko beast. It's her mom telling her that she needs to go apologize to her cousin.
Yeah. I forget what the quote was, but when the cousin is like, "Droids aren't sentient," like, just like this nerdy kid, like this nerdy, like, who the heck are you, kid, talking to like Leia? It's just so funny to me.
Yeah, and I also love when she's like, you think that just because your dad is cool and you do it, he says, then people will be scared of you. In fact, actually, and I'm like, whoa, like, what is going on?
I've been reading a lot about
The human
cognitive
psyche.
behavioral therapy, and
I've been reading a lot about the personal psyche, and then she does it to Obi-Wan, and he's like what? Like he just like she called him out. She called him out.
Oh yeah, she calls Obi-Wan old. We're getting. I know we've gone on so long. We're missing a few of the dialogue exchanges, a few of the plot details, but we've covered everything we need to spiritually, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, production wise, what are your thoughts?
Man, the show looks good. The show looks great. The VFX
great on an iPhone.
Yes, it looks great even on an iPhone. I mean, the special effects look fantastic.
I can't believe they chose to use a cracked camera for all the shots in this movie.
My phone's not cracked actually, so.
I have a bit of a hot take.
Okay, hot take.
I have a love-hate relationship with the volume because I think it gets the job done. It makes things believable, but I think with that comes a lot of efficient but cheap choices visually.
I think the only shots that I thought were bad, another hot take, were the shots of Obi-Wan at his house.
Why?
The wide shots, you can tell they're on a volume, I think. And that's just...
I think that brings up an interesting thing, though. Us having covered the volume since it began with Mandalorian Season 1.
Yes.
We know the technology, so we're looking for the possible cracks. There aren't a lot of cracks necessarily.
No.
But we have this imagination of, like, I don't know, when you become a film person, you imagine the set, you imagine the crew as you're watching it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so you imagine how the technology is working. Yeah. And like, sometimes that means it's not immersive enough. And other times it means, well, you have this inside knowledge that is, you're more prone to look for an imperfection, or you're just seeing something that you think is an imperfection, but reality it's not to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
So I do acknowledge that partially my criticism can come from a space of expecting, or just, I don't know. But I think the contrast is low. That's my main concern. I think the darks aren't dark enough.
I agree.
It just feels like a flat. It just feels.
Technically, it is flat.
Yeah, this what I'm touching right here. But like, I don't know. It's just And I think also though, again, this is also informed by like your preferences for how you imagine movies being made.
Mm-hmm.
I do have that sort of connection with Lucas and in the sequel trilogy and Rogue One Solo, in the on location stuff, or miniatures as well. They don't do miniature sets anymore. They do the occasional miniature vehicle, but
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think about again. I mentioned the Phantom Menace documentary. When they're doing the Tatooine scenes, there was a sandstorm. It was like 120 degrees. People were suffering to make that movie, and you just don't get that with the volume.
I mean, and Anthony Daniels almost died.
Yeah, like the set fell apart for the Phantom Menace in Tunisia. I think I don't want to get too broad about philosophizing the Disney brand or whatever, but I think for as much as the volume makes it successful and makes these successful shows that in a quick turnaround gives us something that feels Star Wars. I do miss that risk of George Lucas being like, I'm going away for the next 10 years and I'm going to make these 3 movies.
Yeah.
And it's physically demanding. And I think that the volume poses a threat to really slugging it out in terms of filmmaking in the name of Disney's like, we need to satisfy the fans every year, every quarter of every year. It bums me out. It bums me out even when I'm getting satisfying stories. So I don't know. I know we talked about this is less technical knowledge, is more my philosophizing over it.
I mean, 2 things. One, is the volume still like the coolest piece of technology for filmmaking that has been invented in the last couple of years? Absolutely. The volume is sick and is like one of the most like innovative pieces of technology for filmmaking. It's amazing. And we're not trying to crap on the volume at all. Also, good news. We have proof that parts of Andor have been filmed on location. So Andor is being filmed with real sets. So for anyone who doesn't like the volume, watch it. We'll just wait for Andor. Because also, I guess parts of the Mandalorian season 2 were filmed on location in California. The outdoor stuff. So, and that stuff looked fantastic. That stuff was great. But anyway, some weird behind the scenes stuff. I don't know if you have seen the interview with Obi-Wan, with Ewan McGregor and Jimmy, I think it was Fallon. I don't normally watch a lot of late night at all. But I watched this one, and it's Obi-Wan saying, he is just Obi-Wan at this point. Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan. It's Ewan McGregor saying that when he went and did the screen test with some of the actors who were auditioning, and he went and he was putting on the robes for the first time in like 17 years or something, and they were on the volume in between Mandalorian takes doing like screen tests, and he had forgotten how to do the accent for Obi-Wan because he just hadn't done it in so long, and so he was like, yeah, just do a nice British accent, and then he said it just sounded terrible, and everyone was like disappointed because he didn't sound like Obi-Wan. I thought that was a funny behind. He's like, I had to go back and watch like every Alec Guinness movie and the prequels to remember how I did the accent for Obi-Wan Kenobi because I literally just forgot and it didn't sound good. It was like, imagine forgetting how you did your own voice for a movie. But he's also he's Scottish, right? Or is he Irish?
I think he's Scottish.
I think he's Scottish. But it's like, yeah, it's a completely different accent. And people don't realize that.
Sorry, I've been phased out for the past few minutes because I was trying to find the answer. The guy in the Andor trailer who bangs the gong, his character name is Time Grappler.
Whoa.
So he is like he's the clockman of his town. And he literally, he grapples time for people.
Nice.
Anyway, what else do we have to say about Kenobi? Should we talk about predictions, even though the episode's Wednesday?
Yeah, let's do some predictions. What's gonna happen in the next episode?
We don't know because only like one shot from the trailer showed an episode that we haven't seen.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that shot is, unless it was a cutscene, there's a shot of the Inquisitors having a meeting. And also like when they go back to their base, that's the only stuff we've seen that's like in the trailer that's not in the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, and at this point, it's like, if the first 2 episodes have anything to say, we have no idea what's coming.
And the Anakin suit up.
Yes. Oh, we didn't even talk about the fact that we see Anakin at the end of episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy.
And I checked because for some reason I misremembered his look in Rogue One. For some reason I was like, wait, did he always have that mask in the tube? I thought he was using just his body to breathe when he's in the tube or the tank. In Rogue One, the look perfectly matches up.
Nice.
Got the same equipment.
Love
But
to see it.
in Rogue One they cut so they don't really see a face. They really kept it general.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, we see his face. It's very
well.
clear.
That's because that wasn't Hayden Christensen in Rogue One, and so
Yeah.
they couldn't really show his face because then people would pause it and screen cap it and be like, "That wasn't Hayden Christensen," and then they would get upset.
But like, there's already makeup, so I was like, in Rogue One, am I just remembering a scene that didn't exist or a shot that didn't exist where like we see it just a generic damaged face, but like no, they purposely cut around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, now.
But
This
was Hayden
because we're seeing in Rogue One, Krennic is a third person perspective, seeing this monster bathe, and he doesn't see his face. It feels good that he doesn't feel his face. In episode 2 of Kenobi, no one's looking at Vader. We're seeing Vader as he sees himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's subjective. It's like,
yeah,
this is my morning routine sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also cut after Kenobi thinks of it. So we're thinking of what Kenobi thinks, but like, it's personal. It's much more personal than Rogue One. So I promise, in terms of predictions, operatic implications for Anakin and Vader.
I think that this next episode will open with the Inquisitors. I think the Inquisitor stuff that we see in the trailers are the beginning of the next episode.
I think it's a practical prediction.
Because you end with Vader, and then you bring it back up with the Inquisitors, and then Vader walking in the room, and we get the first shot of Vader. Or I don't know though.
And then
because I want the first shot of Vader to be Vader and Kenobi. I don't know. Do I want the first shot?
No, I think we're only seeing Vader from now on when Kenobi interacts with him.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want Vader to.
It'd be boring to have him lecture the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that.
You're right. I was like, that'd
it could be
so
done
lame.
well, but I just don't think that's what they're doing.
It'd be done well, but that would be lame for the first shot of Vader suited up in the show to be him just talking to the Inquisitors. I'm like, that would be so lame.
They could do a Force connection, the crossfade thing that they did with Luke and Leia in Empire Strikes Back, and then with Kylo and Leia in Last Jedi, where it's like a whoop, and they feel each other. We could be seeing some of that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to build on what you're saying, opening with Inquisitors returning to base and regrouping, being like, okay, we know Kenobi's out there. Let's form a strategy. After that, I think we're cutting to Kenobi fixing Lola.
Yeah.
But being really bad at it. He's like, who was good at this?
Your dad.
Do you think we'll see any more of Luke? Let's focus on next week's predictions. I feel like we're not there yet.
I don't really care.
We're not returning to Tatooine yet.
No.
I think we're doing at least 1 or 2 more weeks of galaxy travels, and then like 5 and 6 back to Tatooine.
Random question: have we seen Alderaan before?
It was shown in the montage at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's right.
But never in the Clone Wars. I always thought that was weird.
The Alderaan was never shown, even though Bail is in like a lot of the show,
mm-hmm.
and so is Leia. Not me, not Leia.
Padme.
Yeah, but that means
Well,
nothing, I guess. So
Padme's Naboo.
I was thinking of
So-
Rebels for a minute, and I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, Leia's in that show a lot.
Another connection because Leia, when she meets Ezra in Rebels, it's another Jedi encounter for her, and she's it feels like she kind of knows. She doesn't know her full backstory, but she definitely has this idea of exactly who the Jedi were,
Mm-hmm.
and sees that in Ezra, and sees that he's on a good path.
Yeah.
So to fill in that gap of information, it's like, yeah, she's had this encounter with Ben Kenobi, and that informs her more than just Bail telling her. It's like she knows this is what Jedi do.
Yeah. Man, we could talk for so much longer about this, but we've been going for so long. It's such a good show.
Because of our ending segment for Resistance, when we do the guess the plot based off of the title,
Yeah.
I want to have some sort of game that we can do. The little it kind of breaks the ice at the end. Like what can we do?
We just have to keep naming random iconic Obi-Wan quotes until we can't anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm so excited for the next episode. I don't know. Wednesday, do I have to work Wednesday? Yeah, I'm probably gonna wake up early on Wednesday and just watch it before I go to work.
I'm gonna sleep in for the first time in a week. And
No, it's
watch
lame.
it. I'm gonna watch it once, maybe take a few notes, and then watch it again that afternoon.
Yeah.
And write the synopsis.
Yeah, you got to get the good synopsis. Our game should be you preparing for the synopsis. I'm just kidding.
What did you think of my synopsis?
This one was good. I liked it. I like that yours are a lot more narrative than mine.
Yeah, thanks.
Very, very different style, and I like it.
I took the cue from Joseph Scrimshaw.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes.
My favorite thing that I said was menacing monster of machine Darth Vader.
Yeah. The good.
And then when instead of calling him Nari, I call him a secret Jedi bar patron.
Yeah.
I think it's just like a fun little exercise to, I don't know, because I'm so into Star Wars now. I want to engage with it a different way.
Yeah, I think it was good, and that you should keep doing it because for this season, it was really good. At least for this episode, it was really good. So keep doing it, and I'm excited to hear your synopsis for the next episode. Do you have anything else before we close it out? This has been a good episode. There's been some good discussions.
Ahsoka lives? I don't know.
Ahsoka lives. You think we'll see Ahsoka in this?
No, I'm just thinking about Tales of the Jedi and Ahsoka.
Oh yeah, I really hope we don't. I don't want to see any cameos from any other shows in this show. Please just make it its own thing for once. Anyway, we're not going to be pessimistic because this show is absolutely fantastic so far. If you would like to find us on any of our social medias, you can find us at Last Star Wars Pod at Instagram and Twitter, or Last Star Wars Podcast on Facebook and YouTube, where you can find all the cool videos of the podcast. If you'd like to email us, you can email us at laststarwarspod@gmail.com. Just let us know what you think of this show. It's great in our opinion, and we can't wait to see it. What are your predictions for the rest of the show? That's all we got for you today. But luckily, you don't have to wait too long.
We cannot wait for Kenobi.
Yes.
Because we can know Kenobi.
Yes. And luckily...
It's got me tied up in knots.
Luckily, you don't have to wait for very long, because the next episode coming out this Friday, not even a whole week.
Wednesday.
I mean, our episode.
Sorry, I wasn't speaking to somebody. I said Wednesday. What did you say?
I meant the podcast. The podcast comes out on Friday.
This one?
Yeah. No, not this one. The next episode. I was making a joke. You guys have to wait even less time for the next episode of Kenobi because it's literally only 2 days away. But if you're excited for the next episode of our podcast, it's only 4 days away. So be excited for that. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Last Star Wars podcast, and we can know Kenobi, and we'll see you next time.